Happy Wednesday. Yesterday I talked about friends. I noted that I wanted to go off script this week. I talked about some older guys that I've been friends with and referenced also John Ortberg, who's an acquaintance. John and I have done some things together, been together at various events. He preached at Christ Church. We did a funeral together at one point. So I mentioned all that to say that I was invited onto a very limited release of a series of Lenten reflections that he has been doing this year. As you may know, John has had a devastatingly difficult last few years. Some of it not his fault, some of it arguably has been his fault. No moral failure, but he would say that he made some significant mistakes, some bad decisions, and there have been some other challenges, and everything is sort of coalesced. And it's just been devastating. Now he's processing it. He has 2 a.m. friends, and he's owning it and walking through it with others. And his reflections during this Lenten series have been very much about humility. It's been pretty raw, not in a bad way, but he has clearly been learning a lot. It's very life-giving in one sense. And his focus has been on humility, which has dovetailed with the fact that I have been, one of my devotional books for the last 6 months or so has been Andrew Murray's book, Humility and Absolute Surrender, which, since I just did a podcast on reading, let me note, when I first approached Humility and Absolute Surrender 10 years ago, 15 years ago, didn't really enjoy it much and didn't go with it long. But I set it aside. Sherry kept saying it was a great book, and so I set it aside and came back to it later and have found it to be very rich and helpful. In Murray's book, he talks about humility not in response to sin, but as a way of just, because of who God is and who we are, the right response is one of just humility. We're not God's equal, not even close. Nothing makes sense. And so there's a number of, a third reason I should say that you would talk about humility. One is because of sin, one is because of how great God is, and one is because of who Jesus is. And so we've got that with Philippians 2 passage that we're told to humble ourselves, the Luke 20 and Matthew 20 passages that talk about Jesus showing up to serve, so we should humble ourselves and serve. But Ortberg has been coming at it from this path of humility, and he would make a bunch about the upside of being humiliated. And he says that not many of us can get to the point in which we ask God to truly point out our serious character defects. He said that we can approach God and say, okay, I think I'm ready to see more of who I am, to see more of my heart. And I realize I'm powerless in this process. I'm powerless to be who I want to be, the better husband, the better father, the better pastor, the better whatever. And I'm powerless in this process, and I'm humbling myself, and I'm asking that you would help me move to the next level, that you would fix me. And I realize I have no idea what I'm asking for. Now the Bible tells us to humble ourselves. I sort of latched onto that. Like, I don't want to pray for humility, honestly. That's always seemed like a very dangerous prayer to pray. But Ortberg is praying that and saying that as horrific as it has been a source of life-giving joy. So I do think growth comes through challenges. And Tim Keller, who's going through pancreatic cancer, has been writing about this. His new book out on this as he's reflected on he's doing relatively well now, but he has pancreatic cancer, and he says, I expect that this is going to kill me, and so he's reflecting a lot on his death. And he's talking about the path to being who I want to be is often not through good things. It's often through very hard things. And I'm seeing Ortberg go through that. And there's just a whole lot of us being called to humble ourselves and to serve. So let me end by reading again Paul writing, "Have this attitude among yourselves, which was in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant and being found in likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross." So he just talks about God. Jesus for you and for me was humbled, he was humiliated, and there is it's the root word of humility. We are to humble ourselves, to recognize our powerlessness, and to lean into God and to ask him, take me, purify me, help me go to the next level. Have a good day.